Well,
We
I got
shall
some.
see. We shall
I got
see.
some bad news for you and our listeners.
Hit me
Um,
with it.
this may be one of my last episodes
Oh,
because
really?
I'm quitting and moving to Oklahoma to become a tornado wrangler. So I don't think that I'll be able to do the podcast and chase tornadoes at the same time. I'll be too busy. I'll be out in the field, you know?
Hey, well, in case our listeners don't know, our how should we say affiliation with technology is not quite there, but Blake, maybe we figure it out. I don't know.
We
I
could
think they
figure
have
it out.
Wi-Fi in Oklahoma, so yeah, we'll have to
Yeah, we
see.
could, and like I could be the guy posted up, like, in the truck with all the equipment, like just going ham on the
Yeah,
computers.
you're
I don't
the
I don't have to
guy.
actually
Yeah, the
get
guy
into
on
the
the
tornado. I think
outside.
that's more my role.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah,
outside
you're
looking
the
in. That's
yeah you're
me.
the hmm distant communication there.
Right.
Let's
Well,
see.
ladies and gentlemen, welcome or welcome back. It's Totally Biased Music. It's Blake and Anthony. And today we have an Anthony pick album. So, Anthony, I will let you intro the album. And then afterwards, we're going to have a guest pop in for a split second. And then we're going to talk Nightcrawler as well. So, Anthony, intro the album for the people.
All right, so it's been a long time coming, but Buckethead deserves his place in the podcast universe, especially in the Totally Biased universe. And the album we're going to listen to or we listened to already, is A Real Diamond in the Rough. Came out from 2009, and Buckethead, for folks who don't know, if you've never heard of Buckethead, just do a simple Google search and let the rabbit hole take you where it's going to take you. In fact, there's a term for this, and it's something that I experienced a few years back, and it's called going to Buckethead Land. Buckethead's catalog might be the most extensive, the most deep, the most eclectic, the most diverse,
Dude, it's so
potentially
much. I was like
potentially of
scrolling to get to I was scrolling to get to the album, and I was just like, it was just scroll, like to get down there.
it never ends, and I think that is the sign of a true artist, is that he is creating things constantly, whether it's in a collaborative form, whether it's in a solo form, and all over the map genre wise too. But to kind of break it down, I think in a way that is digestible to a person who maybe has no experience with Buckethead at all. He's got a handful of studio albums, and in my opinion, the studio albums really reflect like an inner emotional kind of connection Buckethead has just with himself. It's an expression. Um, so he has studio albums. He has, like I said, some collaborative um, joints with Les Claypool from Primus, Bootsy Collins, Serge, the lead singer of System of a Down. They have an album together. He's hugely respected in the music community. But then he also has these short EP like things that he calls pikes. There's, I think, as of today, 661 pikes, and they're about a half hour long each, but like so much fun to just like go in there and see what you come out of. Because, like I said, he ranges from blues to acoustic to avant-garde, like freak out music, to like beautiful, emotionally provoking melodies and just heavy guitar strings. I mean, the dude is just, he's, it's hard to describe in words. He's an enigma. He's one of a kind, and he doesn't speak, he doesn't show his face, but again, from a music standpoint, he really touched my soul when I discovered him. And I only discovered him maybe, 5 or 6 years ago, and completely random. A lot of people, I think, were introduced to Buckethead through Guitar Hero. Soothsayer, one of his like most well-known songs, was featured on one of the probably like bonus, the highest level tracks on that game. But
Yeah.
uh, but like I said, Buckethead has been one just to that it's a mystery that keeps kind of revealing itself over time, and I think there's infinite directions to go. But I wanted to bring this album one because I think it is very digestible to anyone without hearing issues. I think it's something that will definitely speak to you in one way or another. And two, because Buckethead is touring right now, and I will be seeing him, if you're listening to this on a Thursday, tomorrow. I'll be seeing him this week at the Caverns in Tennessee. and
Nice.
super excited to witness him. And his live show is something we can talk about maybe later in the episode or for a future episode. But I'm assuming this is your first taste of anything Buckethead related. Is that right, Blake?
Yeah, it is. And like, I know of Buckethead, just through knowing, being into music like this, like rock music, blues music. I mean, he's, like you said, he's an enigma, right? People know of him, but I haven't ever sat down and listened to Buckethead. I've probably heard a couple tracks here and there, and I know that you've brought up Buckethead before. So I kind of went into this, as this happens a lot. I went into it kind of blind, and was not expecting what I got. It was very different than what I was expecting. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, which we'll talk about later. But it was an interesting album, man, and it's interesting to see how much music he has. Like, his catalog is so fucking expansive that had you not picked an album, I wouldn't even know where to start. And
Right.
I really want to go back and like, I want to find albums that are more bluesy, and see kind of
Okay.
how he does that and what his take is on blues music. And I mean, he's a great guitarist, right? Great musician, super talented, super interesting guy, right? The bucket over the head. I mean, he's just
Right.
he's just an interesting guy. So
He's a character.
it's cool it's cool to see that he's still touring and people are still interested in the music, because he's been around for a while, right? Like, this
Yeah. I
album was
mean, he's
2009.
yeah, and he's like 55, and he's probably been. I mean, he is like. I guess you could quantify him as a guitar prodigy. Like, I don't know off the top of my head who his mentor was, but he had a mentor at a very young age that really kind of took him under his wing and really showed him a lot of, I would imagine, blues and that type of guitar feel to get going. And then he kind of just snowballed into his own kind of lane of music. But something that I'll mention to you and mention to the listeners too after the podcast, just Google search Buckethead Pike generator, and there are different kind of key genres or key kind of flavors you can type in, and it will generate a pike for you to listen to. Pikes you can look at as like tickets to an amusement park ride. Buckethead is like obsessed with Disneyland. He's obsessed with nunchucks. He's obsessed with doing the robot, and all this is kind of flavored in throughout the live show. But yeah, pikes you can look at, like, each one will have a little ticket stub in the top corner. But yeah, if you look up a pike generator, you will likely find some sort of direction, because otherwise, yeah, it's insanely overwhelming.
Yeah, it's a lot, but it
Mhm.
was cool, and I think this album, and we can get into it later. There are a lot of there's a lot of slower tracks, right? Like, the second half of the album slows down a lot, and
Yeah.
there are times where, like, I wish he would have, and I feel like he could have implemented kind of more blues type riffs over some of this music on the back half of the album. That's how I perceived it. Like, that's kind of what I was wanting and expecting it to do. And it went in a different direction. But there, some of the songs I really like, but some of them I wish it had more to it. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about it, and after this, go listen to more. Because I love a good
Fuck
guitar
yeah.
player, man. I love listening to some good guitar music. So.
Mhm.
But let's get into the start. What do you got for top tracks?
Well, so I'll say this just before we go into listen these tracks out. Something that I texted you, and I'm curious to know if you did this. But what was so like? I texted Blake to say I was actually outside in my yard late at night, probably like 11 o'clock, and I was smoking a cigar, and I was like, "This is the ideal time to play this type of album," because this, like, you want blues from Buckethead, and I understand that, and it's there. You just got to find it, right? But this
Right.
album to me is like it's like a cleansing. It's one of those things where you just, like, I struggle taking notes throughout this album because I get lost in the music, in the sounds, and I think it's something that this this lane of Buckethead does for me, which is it's a cleanse. Like, regardless of any forethought I have going into it, it teleports me to another place, and like, that was an ideal setting for me to listen to this, was at night, outside, darkish, but letting just the sounds wash over you. So I'm curious to know your listening context first before we go into the
Yeah,
tracks.
so my plan was to do just that yesterday because I bought cigars. So I had a poker night recently, and so I
Oh
bought
yeah.
cigars. And I was like, oh, you know what? Like last night, Amanda went to bed earlier than me, and I was like, I'm gonna go smoke a cigar and play this album. My neighbor, who the entire time she has lived here has never thrown a party ever, was throwing a fucking rager last night. And for those of you that don't know, I live in a townhouse. And so my backyard is basically like there's a fence separating us, a small fence, but like it's a very public backyard. And her and all of her friends were like yelling, wrestling, drinking, like just fucking raging outside to the point where I was like, I went out, I smoked probably half a cigar, and I was like, this is too much for me, and just put it out and went back inside. So
Gotcha.
I listened to the whole thing today. I came upstairs and Amanda went and she was doing some stuff around the house, and so I told her, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go listen to this album, and just put on headphones up here, lit the
Oh
candle,
yeah.
and just let it ride front to
There you go.
back. So not really my ideal scenario for it. It probably would, the night that I originally texted you that she was going to bed early, I should have just done it that night, but I didn't have cigars at that point, so I was like, let me wait until I
Uh,
get the cigars. And that plan blew up in my fucking face.
I
So
gotcha.
whatever, it happens. I can't be mad at my neighbor. Like, she doesn't party, so
No,
it's like once in a blue moon. No reason to be upset. But yeah. So that was
but
my scenario for listening to it.
but at least you checked out to go there, you know. And I think that sometimes when you do that with music like this, you're doing yourself such a service, just getting lost in it, and also understanding that you don't know the direction it's going to go in, and that's like you can only have that experience once. And I'm stoked you had it, regardless of however you did. But for
Yeah.
folks listening out there too, this type of album, great for the shower or a bath, or like if you're just fucking you're driving, obviously, but like anytime you can just relax and just detach. This is something I play regularly for that. But
For sure.
so into top tracks. So number three, I've got Formless Present. A lot of these tracks I'm going to list are like very nuanced tracks to me. Um, I think that Buckethead is so innovative with a guitar and with his effects and with his pedals and with his kill switch. But like Formless Present for me sticks out in this album because of the resonance within the track. It's like it's almost like when you drop a drop of water into a bigger body of water, it has that ripple effect. He does that with his guitar, you know, and with his pedals, and like that is something that really stood out for me throughout this album, was just the wavy effect that track has. Number two, I have the intro track, Broken Mirror. It just, for me, again, emotionally, this album is tied to my soul in so many different ways. But that blend of like just a mellow intro into that heavy guitar and that back and forth feel really resonates with me. So Broken Mirror. Number one, I have Big D's Touch. You know, I did some research to figure out what is like Big D. And it's funny because this album apparently is dedicated to his legal representative. You know how Eminem always is shouting out
Interesting.
his guy.
And
This is
Paul.
another like
Yeah.
synchronicity within that. So shout out to Buckethead's lawyer apparently. But that song really like takes the emotional cake for me throughout this album. Like I said, it goes in a lot of different directions, and towards the end, it kind of coasts until the last track is the heaviest, and I think that's kind of like a credits like epilogue because it doesn't match this whole album. It kind of just like sets it off at the end. It's kind of like a spark, but
Yeah.
but Big D's Touch is very like, dude, like those chords, just the intro, just immediately I'm melting. I'm already like sucked into it. So that's my number one track. But I gotta shout out Squid Ink. You know, one and two are like very grungy, and like that. I love Buckethead grunge, and that heavy guitar, those heavy strings really like resonate with me. And then I also want to shout out Sundial. Sundial is a track that's like right in the middle of this album, and it kind of, for me, serves as this kind of intermission. Again, another interesting way to utilize tones and playing of a guitar to kind of just like create atmosphere and evoke emotions. But Sundial definitely does something special there too. So
Yeah.
that's what I got.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up Formless Present because it's not on my top tracks, but I found myself saying like there were other songs, like other slower songs that I will get into during bottom tracks where I was like, man, this is just this is the bad version of Formless Present. Like Formless Present is like the perfect slow song for me. It's like very, I don't know, it's like walking through the woods, like you're about to step into a different land type music to me. It's very like enchanting. I like that's the word that
The
comes to mind.
shimmer
It's like an enchanting. Yeah,
and
yeah.
annihilation.
It's like exactly, yeah. And it's like a very just enchanting song to me, and so I really liked it. I don't have it on my top tracks, but it is like it's a good shout out because I think there are some slower songs that just don't do it for me, and I kept thinking back at like, man, Formless Present is like the perfect version of what I want from a slow Buckethead song.
Gotcha.
So first song for me, Broken Mirror intro track. I will say the beginning of this kind of turned me off a little bit. It's got kind of Creed vibes at the beginning. It's a little Creed-esque is kind of what I was hearing. And I was like, all right, man, what are we doing here?
There's something in your DNA that just like if it just like tickles it like screams Creed to you.
Yeah, it just like immediately my brain reverts to that.
Hurts me to hear that.
But once it gets going, man, does it get going? It's hard. The solo that he starts playing when he starts like really playing a solo about 2 minutes in or 2 minutes 15 seconds in. It's great, man. High pitched, like, and it's kind of chaotic. You can't really follow it. You don't know where it's going, and there's something cool and exciting about that inconsistency in that guitar solo towards the back half of the song. So really like Broken Mirror. Second one, Separate Sky. So Separate Sky again, picking up the speed a little bit here, and man, the end when he gets into this solo at the end is like, whew, he's letting it fucking rip, dude.
Yeah. And like there's only a few moments on this album where he does that, right? But another reason like to kind of highlight that is to know that he can do that. So like again, like from an artist standpoint, like he is beyond capable of touching that. But that solo features the kill switch. And basically it's like how how Lauren used to do it in his music where he would just like right? He does the same thing with this little red button on his guitar. And if you ever get a chance to catch him live, which I can't recommend enough, if you go up front, if you're up front for his shows, like if you're on the rail or even like just 2 or 3 heads back, he will at a point turn his guitar over and hold the neck of the guitar and still play with his fingers. He's got insane long fingers, but he'll let the fans can play the kill switch, which is just
crazy.
It's a fun experience, but it's like, again, he's a giant kid on stage. Like he's such a presence. He's massive, but like at heart, he's a young kid soul.
Yeah. No, and it's like what's funny, the end of Separate Sky, like that solo at the end of Separate Sky is very much like I don't know, it's like if 80s music was good, like it's like what Axl Rose wants to be. Like you could slot that into like an Axl Rose solo, but it's like way better. That's what it sounds like to me. And he just he shreds, dude. It's so good.
Well, since you mentioned Guns N' Roses, I hate to cut you off again, but there's like too many stories to tell about Buckethead. But did you know Buckethead played with Guns N' Roses for a short period of time? Did you know this?
I did not know that.
So
Slash,
I don't know what happened with Slash, but
for some Slash reason, is the guitarist, not Axl.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, but either way, but like for some reason, Slash had to take a break from Guns N' Roses, and they're looking for other guitarists, and they're auditioning people. And of course, like a lot of musicians are like, dude, you can't pass up on Buckethead, like to play. Like, dude he can do anything. So like, you just let him learn the music, and he's gonna perform. So when Buckethead speaks during his shows, or he's not speaking, but when there are vocal parts throughout his show, he speaks through a hand puppet. It's like a mask, and he's like working the mouth. So the story goes when Guns N' Roses and Axl was interviewing Buckethead to play with them, all all negotiations were done through conversing with the puppet head, which is just
Oh my
like
god.
insane to think about. Like these grown adults talking about legit contracts and negotiations, communicating
And he's
through this
doing it through a
puppet.
fucking puppet.
Yeah, there's nobody like him, and that's like
Yeah,
you can't
that's
like
hilarious.
and he got the role, he got the part, and like again, like he got to tour with Guns N' Roses, and arguably people enjoyed him more than Slash. I don't know. I'm not a huge Guns N' Roses
Yeah.
fan at all, but Buckethead again,
Yeah,
playing
no,
on
me
stage,
either.
you can't miss it. And in
Yeah,
the bucket
that's
with the mask, all the whole get up, yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking hilarious. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, and Axl, like Axl Rose is a weird fucking guy, and he's had kind of a troubling lore to him, to say the least. So it's but hey, if Buckethead made it work, he could deal with him, then more power to him. It's
Exactly.
impressive, to be honest. Okay, and then my top track is the very last track, "The Return of Captain EO."
I knew you would love that.
And yeah, I was about to say, you should have known that I was gonna love this song because it's hard as fuck. Like it gives me Tool vibes, and I just love this like metal type music, and it feels like such a departure from the rest of the album. Like it doesn't. I don't know. It seems out of place, but it's a great closing track to it. Kind of like you said with Separate Sky, just to be like, yeah, I can do this. By the way, this is the type of music I can also make.
Right.
So yeah, I loved the Return of Captain EO. I thought it was great, and yeah, a great placement for it too. It belongs as the last track. But man, I love a heavy hitter, Anthony. That's my whole thing. I love a heavy hitter.
Gotcha. And it's out there, but a whole Buckethead album of heavy hitters can get overwhelming. And that's the Pikes. There are a lot of Pikes that are just smashers all the way through. And like I said, if that's your fix, you will get satisfied with that. But
Right.
But I think it is interesting because these albums are not made to be commercially successful. They're not being released on any like top 100 music of the
Right.
Like, it's just not that. It's never been about that. It's just Buckethead creating. And
Yeah.
Captain EO is an interesting. There's a lot of reoccurring themes throughout Buckethead's music. He loves Michael Jordan. He loves LeBron. He loves basketball. He loves LeBron James. He loves Michael Jackson.
Respect.
Yep. Michael Jackson is a huge influence of his too, for better or for worse. But I mean, you gotta, give creativity where it's due. But like Captain EO, I just recently found this out, was a character that Michael Jackson played in a movie. So there's a couple tracks throughout over time, that reference Captain EO, and that's just a tribute to Michael Jackson. But that's, I think, the way this was intended was again just a rocket send off at the end of this album, to say, here, this is what we got. Hell yeah.
Yeah, he nailed it. All right, what do you got for bottom tracks? Or are you going to tell me it's perfect and you have no bottom tracks?
I'm gonna tell you that I don't change anything with this album. Now, I will take that back. I would love more Squid Ink, like Squid Ink, that grunge feel. Like there's the first track, and then there's the kind of closing part where it's part two down a few tracks later. But I'd love that. But no, man, again, these tracks are like, it's like a pill that I'm gonna take. I'm not gonna like break it up and take a little bit here and then take a little bit. I'm just fucking swallow it and then here we go. So it's like I'm in for the ride, and like, dude, I love it, man. And this is not my favorite Buckethead album. I'll put that out there. We'll bring it around at some point in the future. But like, this is something, like I've mentioned, can be played in my mind at any context or any time for me. Anytime I play this album, I know what I'm getting into, and I know that I'm just going to lose myself, and that to me speaks volumes. So with that in mind, I'm not changing anything up here. So no bottom tracks for me.
That's fair.
Let's hear yours. I'm open.
It's fair.
Open to it.
All right, so you're not going to like this, but Big D's Touch. Because what the fuck is the name of this song, man? Like, what? Like, is he talking about dicks touching? Is he like, what is he doing? And it just, I saw that, and in my head, I'm like, dude, what are we doing here? But like, apart from that, it just, it's one of the slower songs, but it's very repetitive to me. It gets super repetitive. It's kind of the same riff that he has, and it goes over and over again a lot, which I don't think happens in a lot of these songs. So to me, it just, I don't know, it got a little too repetitive for me. I mean, it's nice music, right? Like I think if it were broken up, right, if it were a 2-minute song, then I could do it, but it kind of drags on for me towards the end, just gets a little repetitive. And then number 2, Allowed to Play, because Allowed to Play, this is
album.
Not only is it the slowest song on the album, but there's nothing going on here, man. It just never. This is the song where when I listened to Formless Present, I was like, this is what Allowed to Play wants to be. It had the potential to be this, but it just wasn't. And so it just, I don't know, that took me out of it. It's just really, really slow, man. And there's just not a lot of music to it, right? It's fine to have a slow song, but it's just there's not much going on here,
it's a lullaby, you know. And now, that's that.
And it put me to sleep. It did its job.
Right? Well, there are pikes that are just this, you know, where it's just complete ambient, you know, where it's very, very mellow, very melodic, and again, it's a different taste, but I had a feeling it was going to go there. Dream Thread is a pike out there for anyone listening. If you like that song and you want to find Buckethead music to sleep to, Dream Thread is an interesting take. But yeah, I knew going into this album that it was gonna kind of ruffle those feathers. Because when you thought of Buckethead coming in, like, were you expecting?
I thought of like
Captain EO.
Yeah, I was expecting like ripper solos, whether that be blues type solos or rock type solos. I was just expecting way more. Way more shredding, basically, because everybody always talks about what a phenomenal guitarist he is, and he is, right? And you can see it in this album, but it's just a different form of guitar playing. Yeah, different flavor for sure. Yeah. And then my final, I'm sorry, Anthony, but my final one is Squid Ink, man, because Squid Ink is. This is what it feels like to me. It feels like the beginning of a Tool song that never fully catches steam. It's like I wanted more. I got blue ball. He was edging me. That's what he was doing. He was edging me with his music. I was expecting it to launch into something bigger and more dramatic. And I was like, oh, maybe Squid Ink Part 2 is that. It's not. That I was wrong. Right. So I don't know. It's on the cusp of being something great to me, but it didn't do it for me, you know. I'm sorry. I know what you're saying. It is like it's very Tool-esque. It's very grungy, and I don't know, it had all the makings of a good song, and just it never got there, you know. Never got there for me.
You know, in defense of I can't help but try to defend. I mean, this album it's its own thing, you know, but I'm just glad to hear you, because basically you're saying you don't dislike that song, you just want more of that song, you know. And I think that is it's a great critique of a lot of this music, because I agree, like Big D's Touch should probably be compact, and maybe Squid Ink be stretched out a little bit too, but like that's the cool part, is to know that it's there and know that it could be done. And like, fuck, the cool thing about Buckethead music too is that this music is not hyper complex. Like, if you learned guitar, you could play a lot of these songs, you know, and then who fucking knows, you know, where you can go with it. But but the fact that it's there and the fact that it got put into our ears, I think is something that's worth noting. And again, I'm glad you came through it and you went in blind. I think that is honestly the best way to do it. You know, if you can get past the fact of like, it may not be what you want it to be, but that doesn't make it bad by any means.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Fuck yeah.
But yeah, that's really all I had for bottoms. I mean, overall, you know, good, and we'll get into it in ratings, but I enjoyed it, you know, and I want to, if you bring another one, I want to go down a different lane of Buckethead avenue to see kind of what other types of music he can fuck around with, you know.
What I'm thinking in the future, and I'll bounce it off of you now, is to bring, instead of bringing a full album, to bring 2 pikes. So 2 basically 30-minute, you know, excursions
good
into
idea.
Buckethead land. So yeah, we'll do that. Fuck yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, what do you got for rankings?
Surprised there's no there's definitely no album reviews out there. I'm assuming no Pitchfork, no yeah, right. Surely, I bet they have something in the world to say about Buckethead, but it's probably not even worth reading because it's probably some
Yeah,
bullshit
I mean,
interpretation.
exactly.
He wears a mask on stage. No.
Yeah.
So to me, man, well, let me say this. There's something interesting about putting a mask on. You know, I don't know the last time you put a mask on, but like when you do that, you basically like you shed your identity completely. And like that's the fun thing about ever going to a masquerade or going to a show with mask on. It's like you ever watch Eyes Wide Shut? Have you ever seen Eyes Wide Shut?
I haven't,
Blake?
but I know it's a Kubrick movie. So I haven't watched. I heard it's really weird. So
It's really weird.
I need
really
to watch
good.
it.
But there's a lot of masks in that movie. But I just love the concept of a musician performing that has no identity. You know, I mean, like you can obviously find pictures of young Buckethead out there. His name is Brian Carroll. If anyone's ever curious about digging into him, and you can find pictures of him. But like again, the idea of just being a presence, you know, walking out on stage, no expression except through sound, you know, that is like so special to me. And that's again why I think he's head and shoulders above other artists because of that fact, you know, where there is no ego. And I mean, he puts out his music on Bandcamp religiously, and it's very affordable, very cheap. So go support Buckethead if you get the chance. But for me, this album gets nothing lower than a 10. You know, I mean, it's just replayability for me, the emotional attachment, just, you know, again, it hits me right where it needs to. So I give it a 10, but I expect a more critical response from Blake. Like I said, when you're attached to something, you're biased as fuck. So like, again, it's going to get high ratings from me.
Yeah, I mean, I knew you were gonna give it a 10, right? That's what you do. Most of the time when you bring albums to the pod, you're gonna give them a 10. I think you may have dropped below for some of them.
Yeah.
But I give it a 7. It's an enjoyable album. I don't think it's perfect. I think there are times where it's a little too slow for me. There's some tracks that don't really flesh themselves out enough for me. So some critiques there, but still enjoyable, still good music, and I want to hear more from him for sure. It piqued my curiosity. Now I don't have enough listening to form an opinion on Buckethead yet, so it makes me want to go listen to more to hear that, you know.
Yeah. Well, I will definitely send you. I'll send you Buckethead. I'll send you some Pike recommendations. Anything LeBron related. There's a track called LeBron. There's a track called LeBron. I think there's a track called King James. Those are smashers. Nice. Those are smashers. So
fuck yeah.
Maybe after the recording, listen to those, and I can already like envision, you know, Blake saying, "Oh God, damn, this is something to pay attention to," or something to just get lost in. You know, like I had a list. I printed off just like a small little spreadsheet of just numbers, like 1 through 400 or whatever it was at the time, how many Pikes had come out. And what I would do was just I'd listen to a Pike while I was in the shower or kind of getting ready and just check them off. And then I'd put like little, you know, highlight them or asterisks near ones that I really resonated with. And that was what helped me kind of find my lane into Buckethead land, because everyone's experience is different, you know. And again, people do gravitate towards the heavy, fast riffs and the shredding or the avant-garde crazy shit. Like there's like soundtrack-esque music that you're like, when would you listen to this, or what would this be made for, you know? And again, it's just whatever's going on in his head comes out through the guitar, and it's just a wild ride. So like I said, if it's 7 out of 10 for a slow album is a win in my book for your rating. So I'll take it.
That's fair. Well, speaking of Buckethead, let's get into Rise or Dies, because you brought a Buckethead song. So intro that track for us.
So this track is more on the heavy side, more on the back and forth side. It's called the Redeem Team after the NBA team or the basketball team, Team USA, that went to go and win the Olympics, or I guess it was the Olympics.
2008 Olympics.
Yeah. So also this track was something, I don't know if I referenced it a while back on the podcast, but I was at an art show, or actually it was a folk festival in Birmingham, and they have this community arts collective where they will teach young kids how to play tracks, play music, right? And they all have their music, the instruments that they play. There's a drummer, guitar, everything, right? So I'm vending this art show, and out of nowhere, I hear the intro to this song, and I'm like shocked because I'm like, who is playing Buckethead? One, two,
Yeah.
who else knows about Buckethead? Because that's a conversation I've been dying to have, right? And turns out it's coming from the stage, coming from kids aging from like 10 to 15, shredding this song, you know? So
That's
like
crazy.
I was geeking out. I was losing it. I'll post the video on our Instagram too at some point throughout the week. And I lost it. So I was like, these kids are fucking shredding. This song is amazing. And I figured it was probably more of your flavor just from a tempo standpoint, but there is tempo shifts in this song too. So I'll be curious
True.
to see what you thought about it.
Yeah, definitely way more up my alley. Definitely more of what I was expecting when you said Buckethead. It's heavy. It's fucking upbeat. He starts ripping into a solo at about two and a half minutes in, and just goes to town, dude. So I was like, kind of like after listening to the album and listening to this, I was like, would have liked the whole album of this, to be honest. But that's like we said, different flavors. But hard rides for me. I really, really like it. So good pick. And you know what? The Redeem Team, shout out the Redeem Team. 08, that was Kobe, LeBron, D Wade, bunch of great basketball players on that team. Yeah. So very cool to know that he's a basketball guy. Mm-hmm. Yep, it's really good. Cool.
All right, let's hear yours.
All right, well, I shifted up the vibe. So I went with New to Country by Bailey Zimmerman. And let me tell you, we throw country songs on the pod every once in a while, right? And the reason I picked this song is because, I listen to country music way more in the summer. But let me tell you something. After watching Twisters, which we will talk about at a different point, I could just picture, like, this is the song I would be playing from the loudspeakers on the truck if I were going into the storm. I would be playing New to Country. It's a perfect, like, southern hillbilly, like, let's fucking ride, brother. And you know what? You could take the boy out the mud, Anthony, but you can't take him out the country, And it's just really, there's part of me that will always be country. And so I had to bring it to you because I can see it now, me and you in a Ford F-350 barreling down an Oklahoma road, headed towards a tornado, blaring this song. So what did you think?
Well, I'm gonna say this is why this song dies for me. Okay, it is too familiar. It's too new country. Like, new country for me, I can't resonate with it. This is like it feels like a bonfire song, right? And I love that, and I've lived that, right? But it just seems too on the nose for me. Like, it's like I feel like I've heard this song in a lot of different forms, like there's formulas to this music, but if it wasn't worded around him stating that he's not new to country, like, I ain't new to country. Yeah, that's how it comes across to me. So like, the formula works. The song is not bad. It just fucking it hits me in a weird way that I'm like, why? I mean, it's like you can't not like these songs, but I have to say it dies because it's too familiar. It's too on the nose for me.
Yeah, it's very anthemy, very anthem country music.
But here's the thing. Bailey Zimmerman is going to sell out stadiums in Nashville, in Atlanta, and in Birmingham, in Mississippi. So, like, homie's going to make his money. But
100%.
There'll be an empty seat where my ticket might have been purchased.
That's fair. That's very fair. All right, so getting into the movie. So we watched Nightcrawler, Jake Gyllenhaal movie. It was my pick. I have watched Nightcrawler a number of times, and I rewatched it again when I picked it. It's one of my favorite movies. So weird, so creepy. It evokes so many emotions, from fear to anxiety to laughter. Like, there's some really funny moments in this, and like I just really liked it. Had you seen it before, or was this your first ride?
Yeah, I had seen it before, and I really like it. You know, it's a dark fucking movie. I forgot
Yeah.
how it opened with him like you know, beating up this guy and trying to like rob him and shit. And I'm like, geez, like
Yeah.
what? I forgot that this character is fucked up from the get go. I thought
He's
he like got
fucking
jaded.
weird, dude.
I thought he got jaded from the experiences, but no, he is just weird and continues to get weirder and also manipulative.
Yeah.
Like there's some heavy manipulation in this movie that is, it's scary to know that these people exist, but like,
Yeah.
damn, Jake Gyllenhaal, man. I mean, he knows how to do
So
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and he like that's the thing is he's such a good actor that like not only so I read this is a while back, but when this movie was made, he said that he ate only kale basically for like 6 months leading up to
Wow.
the movie to drop all that weight to look so skinny. But his character, like, there's just some haunting fucking moments in the movie, like the moment where he's basically telling the newscaster like we're not going to negotiate anymore. And then when
Right.
he's like, he brings up like, I want you to do what I say when I'm alone with you at your apartment, not like the last time. And just the way that he
Oh,
says
yeah.
it is so jarring,
Exactly. I mean, it's disturbing, you know, how
Yeah.
like intense this frail human can be just with words, you know, because physically he's not an intimidating presence at all. But like the way he
No.
communicates to people and the way he like, yeah, uses that leverage against people to potentially blackmail somebody for like basically saying I'm going to rape you. You know what I mean? It's like, it's fucking heavy,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, I think it speaks so highly of Jake Gyllenhaal's ability to do that and also not be fucking insane afterwards. You know, like people
Yeah.
take on roles like this and they're like their lives change, but like no, I think he's figured out how to do that. But like this is a fun concept too because this is the director's first movie, and like to start the shots at the beginning of the movie are so beautiful and they're so calm, but it's like
Yeah.
this is the calm before the storm, you know, like these are beautiful
Right.
shots of Los Angeles, but we're going to show you the other side of Los Angeles and also how people capitalize on this other side of Los Angeles too. Super
Yeah.
fun concept.
Yeah. And it's very like, it's funny. It's a very similar vibe to Twisters, like the new Twisters, in
I
the sense
agree.
that like it's very fast paced, very like, you know, he's going to catch crime scenes, they're going to catch tornadoes, but it's very action packed. Like, dude, the big finale chasing at the end is so fucking crazy, and just like all of that shit. And like I do love, one of the funniest moments is when he's leaving the house and his partner is walking up, and then they're running back down the driveway, and he's like, this is what I tell you. This is the perfect opportunity to expand your ball. Like he's trying to lecture him as they're running away from the crime scene. It always makes me laugh when I see it. But there's just a lot of good moments like that.
Yeah, and the liberties that he takes, because like it progresses to a point where he's like, all right, I'm gonna manipulate this crime scene, right? And then I'm gonna manipulate what information I'm giving out, and then I'm gonna use that information that I have to almost initiate another thing to just capture. And the way he's looking at shooting this footage that he's taken is very artistic. It's very like like sentimental in a way, but like the way he's going about capturing that footage is just so fucked and so like unethical. It's hard to watch, but like you can't not watch it, which is crazy.
Yeah, and he just like his character is so the character's name, Lou Bloom, is just so sociopathic in the sense that like he doesn't, the end when he knows like the police are about to die, right? And he's telling his partner like, go down there, I want you to get the shot from down there. Like he has no regard for what's about to happen.
Right, you know, and it's just like, oh man, yeah, you can't like, you can't imagine what that mindset is like, but understanding that those mindsets exist is just, it is haunting.
Yeah.
Haunting is a great way to describe it.
I think it was interesting, like he plays a guy, like an autistic guy, so well, who clearly like cannot read the room and doesn't understand how to like, it's like severe Asperger's basically is essentially what it is. Like you could tell that like when they're at the Mexican restaurant, he's bringing up the fact that like, I know your ratings are plummeting, I know you're gonna get fired, blah blah blah, and he's like saying it so matter of factly, like he's not being a total fucking psycho,
No.
but like it's like he can't register that what he's saying
No.
is psychotic.
Mm-mm.
And like I'm glad that we picked it to rewatch. It was a ride. But you wanted to talk other Jake Gyllenhaal movies, right? You wanted to throw together a top 5.
Yeah. So what do you got? You want to just go one for one, and we'll just kind of work our way up?
Yeah. So number 5 for me is The Day After Tomorrow. Early Jake Gyllenhaal, 2004. It's a great. I'm a sucker for end of the world movies, man. So that's up there for sure. But yeah, what about you? What about 5?
I'm just taking a note that you like end of the world movies because I got some sleepers.
Oh, please, dude. I love them.
So my number 5 is Source Code. Source Code's an interesting time.
I have not seen Source Code.
I really loved it. I think I've only seen it. I want to say I've seen it twice, but not anytime recently. I probably rewatched it a second time after the first time because it's confusing as you try to like piece together time jumps and things like that. But he's basically reliving or re-experiencing the same period of time. And I really had a good time with that movie. So Source Code, number 5 for me.
Nice. Number 4 for me is Southpaw. So boxing movie. I like boxing movies, but Eminem helped produce this movie. He does the soundtrack for us. The soundtrack's a banger. Jake Gyllenhaal's fucking ripped in this movie, and it's just it's a boxing movie with very few cliches, which I like. I mean, obviously there's some, right? It's a boxing movie, but 50 Cent's in it, and it's great. So if you haven't seen it, you should definitely go watch it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who the female lead in that movie is because I feel like she's not there for that long. But
she's
movie...
oh fuck, what is her name? I'll think of it in a second. Lively. No, it's not. It's not.
All right, I got it. If you want to guess, I got it though.
No, I can't remember. I know when you say it, I'm gonna remember it and not go for it.
All right, so Rachel
McAdams. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But that's a great movie. I did not know Eminem did the soundtrack, but I should rewatch that.
Yeah,
for sure. My number 4 is probably higher on your list, I would imagine, but it's Zodiac. I kind of categorize these in different ways, and he plays a detective or like a kind of reporter-esque figure in fact, Velvet Buzzsaw is the same director of Nightcrawler.
Buzzsaw is weird as fuck.
Yeah, and he plays that kind of strange role in that. But Zodiac I had to put on here somewhere, so it takes number 4 slot. That's Fincher and the Zodiac Killer. So it's a good one. It's longer, but definitely good.
Yeah, for sure. So number 3 for me. Oh, where did it go? Oh, sorry. Number 3 is Donnie Darko. So I'm sure Donnie Darko is higher in your list, but Donnie Darko is fucking. So I remember that when I was young, like watching that when I was in high school, and that was like my first experience in one of those types of movies. You know what I'm talking about? Like it leaves a lasting impact on you, and it's a classic. So Donnie Darko takes number 3 for me.
Fuck yeah. My number 3 is, I mentioned it before on the podcast, probably during the Challengers episode, but it's called Brothers. It's got Tobey Maguire, it's got Jake Gyllenhaal, and I think it's Natalie Portman is the female lead in that film. And it's basically Jake Gyllenhaal and Tobey Maguire are brothers. Tobey Maguire goes on military leave. His wife is Natalie Portman. Jake Gyllenhaal's at home with the wife. Story happens. So it's a great watch. It's emotionally tugs at your heart, but it's a great film. So if you haven't checked out Brothers, definitely put that on your list somewhere.
Hell yeah. So for number 2, I have a tie for number 2, and then I have a number 1. So number 2 for me is Zodiac and Nightcrawler combined, because I mean, you know me and Fincher, like, and I just it's a great movie, and as we have talked about already with Nightcrawler, like both are just, you know, they're haunting stories, and they leave an emotional impact on you, and they're very intense, and so I I need to rewatch Zodiac because it has been a long time since I've seen it. And Mark Ruffalo's in it, which he's great too. So I need to rewatch it. But yeah, Nightcrawler and Zodiac are tied for me.
Excellent. My number 2 is also kind of a tie or a dual kind of pick. Same director, same year. Denny V, right? Enemy and Prisoners. I mean, those two are fucking crazy. In Enemy, he plays a split role, a dual role in that film, and then Prisoners is fucking crazy. So both of those movies are worth. They could both be number 1 on this list, but I had to figure out some way to frame this. So Enemy and Prisoners, number 2 slot for me. You seen both of them?
Yes, I have, which takes me to my number 1 pick, Prisoners.
There
And Prisoners is like, oh my God, talk about a movie that movie is, oh my God, Hugh Jackman.
is
God,
this?
you're echoing really bad, Trey.
Let me turn my audio down.
Trey, what are you doing here?
Yeah, what are you doing here, Trey?
Oh, is this a surprise?
It's a big surprise.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's pause mine and Anthony's conversation. Do you have an announcement you would like to make?
Ladies and gentlemen, viewers of all ages, hopefully above the age of 18 for most of our content, it is with my utmost pleasure that I would like to announce my return permanently to Totally Biased Music. I would like to thank. Give me my claps first.
I know. I'm trying to get it. There we go. There we go.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Anthony and Blake for really carrying the mantle in my absence. Had some personal things I had to take care of, some big life changes. But my schedule's a little bit more regular now, and I had such a great time doing that podcast last week talking about Eminem.
Lots of good feedback from that.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. I sent it out to a couple people, and I think people really typically enjoyed it. I think this is a great dynamic, and I'm very confident in our creative abilities as a three-way.
Hell yeah.
When we all
Love a good 3-way.
Yeah, we all stick our points together in a circle. We're really going to be able to create some.
Yeah.
some
And
white
Buckethead
magic.
has a song about that, Touching D's. He
Oh,
does
really?
have about.
Big D
So-
I am
Very
curious.
special.
I am curious on Blake's opinion on Buckethead. On how they went.
I won't.
not-
I won't spoil the whole thing. You have to
Yeah.
listen. But I gave it a 7. But there's more details in regards
That's
to
about
that.
what I expected.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's
I
fair.
gave it a 10.
Now,
but
with,
I mean, that's
with me
expected.
coming back on the pod, I do appreciate. Apparently, it's my pick already next week, which is kind of exciting.
So you got
Yep.
the album.
Yeah. What do you
Um,
got for us?
Yeah.
Well, hold on, before you do this,
what
Trey.
I'm
Do you have a
Yeah.
favorite Jake Gyllenhaal movie? Let's put a wrap on that. Favorite Jake Gyllenhaal movie?
Prisoners, dude.
There you go.
Prisoners is so
Gotcha.
fucking
Nice.
good.
I was
Again,
just
yeah.
going on a
You-
rant about how
You and
great
Blake are
Prisoners
so
was.
cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony,
it's
what's your
so
number-
I had
what's your number
Donnie
1?
Darko. Donnie Darko at number 1 for me.
Yeah, I mean that's classic.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
that
That's what I
makes
mean.
sense.
That's
It's just
fair.
OG. Yeah, it feels good.
Are you
All
wearing
right, so
are
hit
you
us
wearing a
with what
Bull-
you
are
got.
you wearing a Bulls jersey right now?
Dude, this is full
That's
Buckethead. I'm
fresh.
seeing Buckethead on
Yeah.
Friday, so yeah, here we go. I also dressed
Where's
up
he
as
playing,
Buckethead for
Atlanta?
Halloween. He's playing in
Yeah,
Atlanta on July 25th. For anybody listening, it's probably the day you're hearing this. He's playing at the Caverns on the following day, Friday, July 26th. So, and then all over the East Coast. Trey, I think he's coming to North Carolina. While you're giving your announcement, I'll pull up his tour and just I'll spell it out for you.
Let me know where he's
hear what
playing
you got
Atlanta
to
too,
say.
just out of curiosity. All right,
Yeah,
so I kind of
variety.
figure, I'm gonna try and variety tight. I'm gonna try and bring some like more pop forward type music. I think to begin with when I'm coming on this
All right.
podcast.
All
So the album that I've picked is one of my personal favorite albums over the last couple of years. It's called "Collapsed in Sunbeams" by Arlo Parks. So it is it's a female vocalist, and she kind of does like some indie pop with like really big time hip hop influences. She has a couple like verses, like rap verses, like in the actual album. It's kind of like dreamscapey. I'm interested to see how y'all feel about it. Blake, I actually brought one of her songs on for Rides or Dies back in the day, and you really enjoyed it.
Nice.
So I'm
Keep
hoping that you
reminding
like Yeah. So I'm hoping that you like the full project. I think you will. Just a heads up that she is British. Some of her biggest influences are like Radiohead and Portishead, Solange. So I think you guys are going to enjoy it. But if you don't, we can talk about why you don't.
Sweet.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Arlo Parks.
Cool. Well, Anthony, what do you have for movie pick?
First off, for the movies, and I have to apologize to the listeners and the viewers out there. We promised you a Maxine aside, and we have not fulfilled the requirements yet. We have not fulfilled the requirements to talk about Maxine yet. So Blake, you have a couple days to do this. I'm not going to spend my pick on Maxine because you know what you got to do. Got to go see it.
Yeah. All right.
So, because you have not watched Maxine yet, I feel I have to make you work for it or work for something. So, our movie for next week is a wild one. It's a crazy one. It's a longer one. This movie stuck with me for weeks after I saw it for the first time, and I haven't seen it again, and I cannot wait to do it. So, your favorite director, Ari Aster, but it is not Midsommar. It is Beau is Afraid. So that is our film for next week. Beau is Afraid. Trey, have you seen it?
Okay.
No, I have not. What is it called? Beau is Afraid.
Mm-hmm. It's Joaquin Phoenix.
Okay. You got me.
In a
I love
fucking
Joaquin Phoenix.
How would you describe it? Surrealistic experience. It's wild, but like I said,
all right.
You give it a shot, Blake, without coming at it jaded just because I'm making you do it. It'll make you feel some shit.
I'm glad it's not Midsummer because that movie traumatized me and I will never watch it again. So it was phenomenal, but it was too good at what it was trying to do and it scarred me. So I'm glad you picked Beau is Afraid.
Mm-hmm. And if you only watch Beau is Afraid once, I would understand. But this is a movie that will have an interesting conversation, no doubt.
Is this an A24 film?
I believe so. Okay. I believe Ari Aster. I think all of his are tied in with A24.
Okay,
but,
gotcha.
Yeah, pretty positive.
I love Joaquin Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and they're actually gonna they're collaborating on the next film together as well, which it's a Western supposedly, but like Ari Aster with a Western. Yeah, Jesus, strap in. But yeah, so we got a good week. So we got Arlo Parks and Ari Aster taking a stroll down Totally Biased.
We love alliteration.
Yeah, very nice, very nice.
Quick question: so do y'all do you let us know where to stream or purchase these films, or do we just kind of?
I guess we could do that. So let's do a little. Well, you're talking to a pirate over here, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. I forget you're all fucking download
recommends. I'm like, I'll find it. But it looks like Beau is Afraid is available on Hulu.
Okay.
It says premium subscription. If y'all can't find it, just shoot me a little message and we'll see what delivers in your inbox at some point.
I got Hulu.
We'll see. There you go.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. Well, Trey, welcome back. We are fucking stoked to have you back. It's gonna be great, and I'm excited for the movie and the album. So what are we gonna do? Is next week my album and Trey's movie?
No. So next week is Trey just picked the.
No, I'm saying like who picks next week.
Oh, let me see it because I had it written down.
Anthony sent me like a written down chart and everything.
Yeah, right. It was a fucking
like a circle.
Yeah. No, it was one of those. There's a name for it. I don't know.
It would make sense you pick album than you pick movie.
Gotcha. So I picked the album. Oh no, where are we? Fuck, I'll have to redo the math. We will find out by next week who does
Give him a second.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll decide at that point. You'll know beforehand. So either way,
okay,
you got a week to listen and watch Beau is Afraid. So we got other things to occupy our brain space till then.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining. Trey, thanks for popping in at the end, and we will see you guys next week.
Peace out.